Welcome to the second hour of Saturday Report. I am Rita Cosby. Reports out of Ukraine this morning that Russian forces have struck Odessa, with Russian troops attacking an energy-generating company building in Mykolaiv. We will have a live report on the ground in Ukraine in just a moment. Plus, targeting the justices after the Supreme Court leak this week. Some are planning to protest at the Supreme Court justices' homes. How far is too far to making your point? And a new poll says that Americans don't want to end Title 42 right now. People don't want that. Will that stop liberals from trying to tear down a policy designed to keep us safe? But first, everybody.
All right, this is sketchy as hell, man.
Yeah, they're pushing. The Russians are pushing forward on this place.
Yeah, I think we got to get the hell out of here,
Well,
man.
I know, but here's the problem. We got to assess whether we're safe right now, but do we want to be moving through that? So that's the problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't be moving in our soft-skinned vehicle through this until we can figure out where everybody's at.
Jim Lechner now joins us from Ukraine. Tell us about that experience. And also, there seems to be some heightened concern there, clearly, with this Victory Day right around the corner. That's what Russia is, of course, calling it from history. But it looks like Ukraine is clamping down, very concerned what could happen in the next day or two there, Jim.
Yes, well, good afternoon, Rita. That's right. We've been covering a number of stories here, and one of those include the Russian military pressure against the Ukrainian lines. Their main effort is out in the east in Donbass, but they're doing an economy of force, which includes keeping pressure on the Ukrainian lines. And yesterday we went down about 45 miles south of Zaporizhzhia, where we're at now, and visited a military aid station, which is right up on the Ukrainian line. The outposts and the infantry of the Ukrainians was only about 1,000 meters, just over a half a mile from that aid station. And when we pulled up to that aid station, that was the moment that the Russians began a company-sized probing attack, probably a platoon of tanks, probably 3 T-72s and some infantry that moved against that position and began engaging the Ukrainians. We were actually receiving tank main gun rounds into the position where we were at that time. So as we were discussing, we were relatively safe inside that hospital, but those main gun rounds were impacting within 100 yards of that position. So that was a bit of a fight that we got in the middle of. We waited till there was a lull in the firing. We jumped in our vehicle and moved about 3 or 4 miles back from the village up onto a ridge line, and then we were able to watch the battle go on. You may have some video there of a black cloud out on the horizon. We were watching that battle go on for the next hour while the Russians used artillery on the position where we'd previously been. You also mentioned that Odessa has come under cruise missile attacks. This is another example of the Russians keeping pressure on the Ukrainians. It's another thing we're experiencing. Now there's a severe gas shortage as the Russians have been targeting the fuel storage facilities and the rail lines for the last 5 weeks. And so not just rationing, but now there's actually a clampdown and severe gas shortage here in the south.
Wow, that is a big, big concern, and obviously so pivotal to what's going on there in Ukraine. Thank you very much, Jim. Stay safe there. We really appreciate it. And joining us now is former Trump Deputy National Security Advisor and also board member of the American Conservative Union, KT McFarland. KT, great to have you with us. You know, we were just seeing there from Jim Lechner, KT, who's on the ground, and he was saying that the Russians have been targeting rail lines. They've been doing that for obviously quite a bit of time, but intensing, basically beefing up those attacks, also hitting storage facilities, gas facilities. They seem to be doing very much strategic strikes. What are you expecting? Because, you know, Victory Day for the Russians, which is a day where they want to showcase their military might to their own people, that's coming up. It's in just 2 days away. There's a big concern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this gets worse before it gets better, Rita. So Victory Day for them is like Memorial Day and the 4th of July all wrapped into one. And they celebrate the defeat of the evil Nazi Germans during World War II by the noble Russians. And so here they are. They've framed this war. Vladimir Putin has framed this war in Ukraine as a war against the evil Ukrainian Nazis thugs who are running Ukraine. And so what Russia's doing, like their grandparents did, is they're fighting off evil Nazis. So he's got to show something. He's got to show some kind of threat of victory, or what he could do is escalate. Instead of just saying this is, just an exercise or whatever he's calling it, he could actually declare war. Now, here's why this is also important. General Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, he said, I think foolishly, he said, our goal here is to degrade Russia, to drain Russia, to bleed Russia. In other words, we want this war to keep going so Russia stays, we can really bleed it out. Now, that's exactly what Putin is saying to his own people. He's saying, look, this is not Ukraine. This is America, led by those Nazi thugs in Ukraine. This is America. This is NATO. They're all coming to get us. And as a result, the people in Russia believe this. I mean, his popularity has gone up as a result of the Ukraine war. They're not seeing the failures and what you're just pointing out, or the brutality or the war crimes. They're seeing noble Russians.
So where do you see it headed based on that? And it's so concerning, KT, and you're so great on these national security issues, why I'm so glad that you're with us today. There's a big concern because Putin has been talking about doing these drills. They've done them in recent days, nuclear drills, chemical weapons drills. They're bringing out this doomsday plane. I mean, there's all these things that are happening that people are saying, well, what may happen to come in the next 24, 48 hours? Or do you think that this is just bluster, that he can showcase something to his people back home?
Well, I think exactly. I think a lot of it is bluster, showing it to his own people. And then maybe he's hoping that the United States and NATO and Europe and Ukraine will all back down. I don't think that's going to happen. But let's fast forward a couple of weeks, a couple of months. Where are we? We're going to have real effects felt in the West, not just because of the Russians trying to turn off gas to Europe. We're going to have effects felt in our own grocery stores. So why? Because Ukraine is responsible for 10% of the world's wheat and grain exports and market, as is Russia, as is Kazakhstan. All of that stuff historically went out through those Ukrainian ports that Russians are now destroying. But also, nobody's planting the harvest this spring. There's not going to be a Ukrainian wheat harvest. The tractors are being used and they're being seconded into military vehicles. And anyway, even if the people wanted to plant, it's not an environment where you can hope to have a crop. So we're going to have major food shortages starting pretty soon. The other thing is Ukraine, believe it or not, Rita, when I was in Ukraine right after their last revolution, that sunflower is their national flower. Now, why is that important? Because a lot of foodstuffs are made with sunflower oil or vegetable oil. If 50% of the world's supply of sunflower oil is going to come from Ukraine, it's not going to come. And so I do think that we're going to have sort of follow-on, knock-on disadvantages that we're going to see in the supply chain crisis in the United States and in the West, as well as a continuing fight. As long as Vladimir Putin makes $1 billion a day on exports of oil and natural gas, he can fight for a really long time.
Yeah, and in fact, the EU just said that they're going to try to cut that off. I was surprised they're still getting quite a bit, but they're trying to cut that off hopefully by the end of the year, hopefully sooner, let's hope. I want to also ask you about First Lady Jill Biden, KT, because she's overseas right now. She's on a two-country tour. She stopped yesterday in Romania where she got a briefing on humanitarian efforts by UN agencies. Today, she's touring a school that refugee students are attending. And then she's off to Slovakia, where she's going to be meeting with displaced Ukrainians on Mother's Day. What kind of message do you think this is sending? I think it's great that she's there, but Zelensky, on the other hand, this week came out, KT, and said he would like to see Biden in Ukraine. How do you take these visits?
Well, I think it's I agree that it's a good thing. She's showing the flag, not only to NATO troops, American troops, but to the Ukrainian people. But I'm sure that if President Zelensky can't get President Biden, what he'd probably love to have is military equipment. And that we've pledged a lot of it. It's been very short and long time in coming. We've talked a good game. We haven't delivered the good game. And time is running out for Ukraine. So I think that the important thing would be if we can send them the kind of military equipment, not that we would fight, not that we would give them an no-fly zone that we would guarantee and shoot down Russian planes on our own, but where the Ukrainians can fight for themselves, by themselves. Yeah,
they're still desperately in need in so much of the equipment. Even some of the things that we've promised already still have yet to been received by them. KT, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.